Hello, everyone. Welcome back to, I think this is our fourth session of the PowerCat AI webinars series. So thank you for staying along with us and welcome to any new attendees. So for anyone who doesn't know, or maybe just a refresher, the PowerCat AI webinars series are interactive virtual sessions to help you build on your transformation with Copilot Studio and agents. So I'm your host, Ashley. And I'll just be in the background answering any questions and making sure everything runs smoothly. And then we have our two speakers, Vasavi Bavirisetti and Ken Aguilard, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm Vasavi Bavirisetti. I'm on the PowerCat Scale team focused on two of our important programs, Kickstarter and PowerCat AI webinars. Thank you.
Hi, and my name is Ken Aguilard. I am in the Power Apps Scale team, and I manage a lot of the governance, security, and compliance features. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. And we're really glad to have you guys.
For today's session, we are here for the topic evolving governance. And the outline or agenda for today is where we'll start off with Copilot Studio governance, a little bit of overview for governance. We'll talk about environments, and Ken will introduce us to zone governance framework. We'll talk about connector policies, managed security, and a lot of key takeaways for you. And finally, we will wrap up the session with a Q&A. So please enter your questions into the Q&A tool. I'm sure most of you have seen this slide several times as you're familiar with Power Platform. As you know, Power Platform is the most complete low-code platform. I'm not going to dive deeper on this slide, but I wanted to call out that Copilot Studio and Power Platform, they're not in isolation. So if you have already had your Power Platform governance established, then this is a great way that you can continue to evolve your governance, incorporating your Copilot Studio agent needs without having to start completely from scratch. Right. So, and today's session, what we will be focusing on is governance for Copilot Studio explicitly. So Copilot Studio is our tool for building a low-code tool for building our agents as well as extending M365 by Copilot, as most of you are already familiar. And with the whole Copilot Studio, with Agent Builder or integration with Azure AI Foundry, right? You can create a spectrum of agents. Basically, you are able to create agents all the way from very simple agents like retrieval-based agents all the way to more advanced agents. And these agents can vary in complexity, capabilities, all depending upon your requirements. We have done our intro to agent session, and I've put the link on the top right here. And Kathy has also pasted it in the chat for us. So if you're interested in learning more how to create these agents on the spectrum using a product retail scenario, please go back and visit that session. So as we think about advanced agents, right, as we move from creating very simple agents to more advanced agent or agents with more advanced capabilities, the need for governance and security also increases very significantly. So if you see on the screen, I have this arrow pointing, showing the progression, which also emphasizes that as more and more advanced agents are being created, the need for more robust governance and security measures are required throughout the agent lifecycle. You will have to think about where these agents are developed. How do you actually test them, and what environments do you test them? How do you deploy them to production so they are accessed, the access is kind of controlled and managed. And finally, you also want to monitor those agents to go back and further optimize them as well. Perfect. So we did hear a lot of great insights from the poll results. And of course, right, we are not alone in this journey. If you see the results from the first annual generative AI study, even there, we have seen that leaders cite that data oversharing and data leaks of sensitive data is their biggest concern. And similarly, these leaders are asking for how they can identify risky use of AI, where if somebody is, querying continuously for any type of sensitive data. And on top of that, one of the key asks is, how can you get visibility into the AI governance and risk? How do you kind of monitor and manage what are the inputs into these AI tools? What are the responses that are generated? And how they're all aligned with your organization policies? And in addition to that, I also wanted to share this slide from our previous session 2 weeks ago, Navigating AI Risk, led by Steve Jeffrey, a colleague from PowerCat, where when asked about the single greatest risk associated with AI, data leak stands out, right? So it's a very, very common challenge that customers have today. And in a scenario where if such an incident occurs, we know that most organizations would end up responding as like, hey, let's go. You would just panic and switch things off. And this is also a poll result from our previous session 2 weeks ago, right? And let me take a step back here before we dive super deep, right? What is governance, right? Is governance risk management? It is not, right? If it was risk management, then we would actually call it as risk management. And if it was risk management, then probably all of us would just go shut things down. And why do we even want to take the risk with AI, right? So think about governance as steering in the right direction. You have the opportunity realization aspect here where you can get the most of the out of your platform if you are able to govern and secure your platform and enable your makers, give them that confidence that they can build things in a secure and compliant way. And in order to do that, in order to effectively be able to govern, you need to really understand what are your goals with the platform. What do you really want to do? Do you want to enable your makers? Do you want to build more agents for your business needs? And identify clearly who are the roles and what are their responsibilities. So you create a center of excellence team there who manages a lot of roles here. And finally, think about breaking down those goals into specific tasks, specific initiatives. So you actually go in, use those initiatives to mitigate your risk and achieve your larger governance goals, right? So will not spend the time on goal clarity, role clarity, task clarity here, but I wanted to bring this up on how you should approach governance and think about governance as proactive, right? Not reactive. What can you do ahead of time to provide that safe and secure environment so your makers can confidently go in, build agents, and admins can confidently enable those makers? So here I wanted to give an overview of governance and security. Again, as you're familiar with Power Platform, you see that how foundationally security is built into every layer of Power Platform, and that applies to Microsoft Copilot Studio as well. So it begins at the tenant level and cascades down to other elements within the tenant. We do have native integration with Microsoft Entra ID that gives you conditional access, and you can enable tenant isolation. And you have environments that are your management containers. So think about your environments for managing policies, managing settings, how you can control permissions for agents, cloud flows, pages or connectors. And you can also enable cross-tenant inbound and outbound restrictions for your connectors. Lastly, you also have Dataverse, which comes with very rich business logic as well as a powerful security model, which you can use to control permissions. You can add row level security, column level security. You can add data masking. A lot of these capabilities are available for you out of the box with Power Platform and Copilot Studio.
I've already heard some very common questions, right? That's already on the screen. Like, how can I protect my AI resources? Cole, I'm reading your comments and everyone else's inside of here about securing the data and so on, and also about gaining visibility. How do I communicate and have healthy adoption? All of these things are not necessarily new to the industry, but being that AI is now front and center from everyone, these questions have, of course, resurfaced. Interestingly enough, and I'm trying to click, but it is not advancing for whatever reason. Let's try this again right here. Hold on one second.
And I'm happy to share, Ken, in case it doesn't work.
I'll just click it on the other screen. It's changing
now.
Okay, I'll just do it that way. So let's talk a little bit about the zone governance framework. Gartner and Forrester, as they do at times, they have productized a lot of what our customers and things that we have actually been putting out for years. And I'll translate this over to some diagrams that you might have seen in the past. And a lot of this now is very, very much simplified in terms of the names of the zones: green, yellow, red, and even somewhat black. Green is where a lot of the more common use cases happen, where we're talking about things like agents inside of SharePoint and so on. Yellow is more maybe department and or region based, things along those lines. Red is pro dev. Red is highly confidential, or black is as well, right? And again, Gardner and Forrester have some great write-ups on this, but they have formally, I guess, said this to the industry, if you will. So what does this look like for us within our platform? And so what does good look like? When we think about it in terms of empowering makers, scaling innovation, and of course, having admin efficiency. And we have done our best to start developing tools to allow organizations to have these three things. For example, we now have proposals on what these zones should actually look like. And these different recommendations that we have are reflective of the settings that we have within the admin center. Even things like I heard someone mention about sharing controls, for example. I will show you in just a moment how to control the sharing of your agents inside of Copilot Studio. You absolutely can do that. And even how to move things from one zone to the other. Now, typically when customers start off, if you are unfamiliar with Power Platform or maybe just starting, we have something called the Power Platform Admin Center, which I'm going to get into in just a moment. If you've never touched it, your zone probably looks something like this. In other words, all of your environments that you may have, be it either the default or multiple environments, are all within one big massive zone. Let's just call this a group, right? A default group. So I have all of my environments inside of here. So essentially, everything's really in the green zone. What I want to do, or what I encourage you to do, I should say, is to start thinking about these things a little bit more granularly. So, for example, let's take what we're doing for maybe personal productivity or test along those lines, things that we don't consider to be very risky, and put those in the green zone. Let's have things that are more department focused or even region focused. Let's put those in the yellow zone. And let's put things that are special or highly confidential. Let's move those into the red and into the black zones. You can even further evolve this into moving your default. Again, the default is the primary use case, if you will, the primary repository where most of these agents will live if you do nothing. So my suggestion is, or our recommendation, I should say, is to move the default away slightly from the green zone, like you're moving it slightly out of there, right? And making it a little bit more secure, a little bit more locked down, and then giving your users, your individuals, right, who are creating these agents, these personal environments. And then these personal environments can be highly restrictive, very, very restrictive, so that they can test, build agents. But you can do this in such a way that these agents are only going to be fit for themselves, not shared with the entire organization. If you choose to share it with the entire organization, then you can introduce something like pipelines. I saw someone mention and they said, oh, okay, well, hey, I would love to do this, but we really need to have a built-in approval system. Well, guess what? You can do that with pipelines. So, for example, if I built an agent inside of my personal environment, and I said to my IT organization, or maybe my center of excellence, my center of enablement, the business, hey, I built this agent. I think it has value. And it's reviewed and it does have value. Okay, great. Well, I can be added to this pipeline, and then I can move my agent from personal into shared, into production, into somewhere else, right? where now it can be shared more broadly with the organization. So the question usually comes up as to, hey, Ken, well, how exactly do we do that? Well, I won't go in and show you everything inside of pipelines. What I will actually do is show you the Power Platform Admin Center. So I'm jumping straight over here. And hopefully, again, I just shared my screen again. If I can get a thumbs up that everybody can see it, or Vass will be telling me that you can.
We can see your screen, Ken. Yeah, maybe
Okay, perfect.
zooming in a little bit might help, but otherwise it's great.
Thank you. I will do that. How's that? That's at 150%. Thank you. And first things first, if you haven't been inside a Power Platform Admin Center in a while, it used to look like this, which is purple. I just accidentally clicked that twice. It used to look like that. It now is going to look like this. And I would highly encourage you to flip the switch, because we are going to be flipping the switch very, very soon, and to get accustomed to using the new green PPAC. PPAC being Power Platform Admin Center. Secondly, we do have dark mode in here now, which seems to be very popular with everyone. So flip that switch too, because the bright light hurts my eyes. That said, let's talk about managing the platform. So I showed you a ton of different environments whenever I showed the diagram. I have a similar setup that you can see here within my tenant today. I have sandboxes, developer environments all over the place in this big flat list. But what I can do here is now I can use groups to build out my structure of my organization. I mentioned talking about personal productivity, or the personal environments. Here I have a group just for that, and I have 20 environments inside of this. What makes this so powerful is that for agents, what I can actually do here is I can do things like this. I can limit sharing inside of my agents to 20. I can even block sharing of security groups if I choose to do so. I can do things with the editor permissions and all of this. Okay. This is proactive governance. So anytime an environment is provisioned and placed within this group, it can be placed in this group automatically. They automatically get these rules applied to them. So how does that manifest itself? So first off, if I land here in Copilot Studio, let me just do a hard refresh on my screen. And hopefully everybody cross your fingers that, demos, when you're doing them live, everything just works just fine right here. So here I am, I'm going to show Copilot Studio. And the first thing that you're going to see whenever that comes up, this is my test tenant, so it is a little bit slow at times, so forgive me, everyone, is the maker welcome message. The maker welcome message that pops up on the screen right here, you can actually put all of your company policies, links, and those types of things to use, help desk, you name it, right, inside of this message. For us inside of Microsoft, this is actually what we actually see here. We talk about using AI responsibly, sensitive use cases, and a number of things. We give folks a whole lot of additional information and education on using agents. Quickly moving over to an agent that I created just a moment ago, because I accidentally deleted all my agents in my test environment. So I made this one very, very quickly just to show you all, to illustrate that I can, in fact, control a lot of things like sharing. So for example, here I am, I'm going into the agent, and I actually want to share the agent with a group. So I'm going to click, hey, share this group right now with this group called All Licensing. And let me zoom in again. But if you can see here, you'll notice that it'll tell you that sharing with security groups has been disabled. And if I need to know more, I can click learn more, or I can email my admin. So again, this is proactive governance, and this is built into the product. So I encourage you all to use it.
We saw data loss prevention policies in the poll results. A lot of great insights of how currently a lot of you manage and secure data within your organization. But here, let's double down on connector policies. Connector policies are nothing but previously known as data loss prevention policies. It's the new naming, and a lot of our documentation is going to get updated to reflect connector policies. And we'll talk about how connector policies can help you control data exfiltration. If you're familiar again with Power Platform, you know that you can apply these policies to your applications automation, but you can actually go apply them to Copilot Studio agents as well. So with connector policies, what you're able to do is you can classify your data connectors as business or non-business, and you can also block your connectors. So you have three different groups that you can classify your data connectors into. And with these options, you have the ability to actually go block or disable specific channels that you don't want your environments to use. Or if you don't want to support like the no authentication aspect with Entra ID, you want to maybe disable specific knowledge, you want to configure explicit endpoints, you can even disable connector actions. Overall, with connector policies, you do have a lot of granular control with the connector policies. I know this is a lot of talking. I'm going to hand it over to Ken again, where Ken would actually demo a little bit, going into the Power Platform Admin Center and demo as a scenario for advanced connector policies.
So I'm jumping back in here now to the Power Platform Admin Center. And once again, I highly encourage you all to please familiarize yourself with the new interface because things are moved and have moved around. For example, now I'm in the security section, and I'm going to go over to data and privacy. And as Vasavi said, it's still called data policies today, but that's going to be changing over to connector management because that's what this is. And if I look at a data policy here, you can see that I can manage all of my pre-built connectors. This is the worst possible example because this is my example right here. And you can see I have everything categorized into one. So for example, if I wanted to start managing things like the Copilot connectors, I can do that here, including my knowledge sources and so on. So I can do things like, oh, hey, I don't want to have live channels or Facebook. I could actually click this and say, block this connector. And by doing so, what I'm doing is for all agents that this data policy, connector policy applies to, is I'm now blocking that Facebook knowledge source. And that's great for what it was at the time, but we are now evolving the platform. And so I am very happy to tell you that what is coming is, and some of you maybe already know this, is advanced connector policies. So this is actually rolling out. This is actually in Canada right now. It will be hitting all regions in a few weeks. You now have the ability to not only manage all of your connectors based upon groups. So if you remember the diagram that I showed you with all the different groups and so on, and all the environments applied in there, but I can also now do things like this. So gone is business, non-business, and block, and all we have now is allow and blocked. And in addition to not being able to do it via allowed and blocked, I can now do something like this, which is remove all the connectors. And I can even do this in the default environment. So this is something that customers have been asking for quite some time. So now if I wanted to block and turn off all the connectors, I can do that with this brand new feature. So I just talked a little bit about the advanced governance policies. If you can see here, the groups, the personal dev, the default group, and so on, these are the groups that I'm actually talking about, right? So this is where the advanced data policies would come into play. Now I can apply these at a more granular level, right? And have very precise, right, governance over all my different types of environments, different regions, and so on. I saw someone mention in the chat about the environment strategy white paper. That's in the top right there. It's aka.ms/environment strategy. Highly encourage you all to take some time and read over that. It was written last year, but it is still very much applicable till this day. Next slide, please, Vasavi. So what does it allow you to do with zones? Zones allows you to, as the name as the title says there, really focus admin oversight where it actually counts, right? I can have the green, yellow, and red, but I can really focus in on how I want to really administer the platform. And Vasavi, I just remembered something that I really want to highlight for the customers, and I'm going to steal the screen back one more time because I saw something in the slide and it reminded me. Everyone's asking for visibility within the platform, right? This is also coming because I know some folks have seen it and we publicly announced it. Hello, we have in-product inventory coming to the platform. It may not be in your tenants yet because this is still in private preview, but please, I'm happy to share with you and show you this, that you can see. I can see agents inside of this. I can see model apps. If I wanted to search for all apps that were created by a person named Mark, I could do that. I just simply typed in the name Mark. If I wanted to see something that was made by Lee, I don't have anything in there, or Sean, right? It's that good, right? So yes, Mick is the person who is working on the inventory, Cole. You are correct. But I did want to highlight that this is something that we are working on and it is coming. We do have folks that have this in private preview. We are not accepting more customers at this time, but please know we are going to move this to public preview. No, it is not a managed environments feature. It is going to be built into the product. It is not part of managed. Sorry, Vasavi, take the screen back, please.
I think, do you want me to present, Ken? We'll talk about the managed platform. I'm happy to present.
Yeah, I'm trying to switch back. It's just taking me a moment.
Doesn't work. Okay, cool. No, here you go.
Thank you. Right. So many of the capabilities that I've talked about are part of the managed suite of products that we have today: managed security, managed governance, managed operations. Managed security, it was the portal that I was just in. I'll touch on that one in just a little bit more in just a second. Managed governance is where we have a lot of the policy-driven, proactive, and reactive governance today. Managed operations is where we have ALM, application lifecycle management. And now, if Vasavi goes to the next slide, what we actually have is a fourth pillar. So we now also have managed availability. Managed availability is, as the name says, it lets you manage your availability within the platform, such as things as disaster recovery and so on. I can even do things like fail over my entire tenant or a single environment from one region to another to test out disaster recovery. And so you as the customer now have control over doing that. Going to the next slide, we have now the Security Hub. Security Hub is your, as the name implies, hub for security within the platform. How are we doing on time? 10 minutes. And if Vasavi, if you go to the next slide, I think we can maybe even skip the demo because I've been going in and out of Security Hub.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. One of the key features of the Security Hub is, if for those of you who may have known one of my counterparts, her name is Jocelyn Panchel. Jocelyn calls it the Safeometer. If you noticed my tenant had a Safeometer score of 25, which is terrible. Right here, you're seeing 70. What we are doing now is proactively telling you, right, what you should be doing to secure your tenant. So we actually give you recommendations, suggestions, if you will, right, on how to improve this score. That includes doing things like setting up and restricting guest access, tenant isolation, IP firewalls, you name it. Next slide, please. Many of these features are outlined here inside of the slide that Vasavi is presenting right here, and they fall within data protection, identity management, compliance, threat protection, and security posture management, right? So I highly encourage you all to dig deeper into managed security, and don't hesitate to either drop myself or Jocelyn Panchel a ping on LinkedIn, and we'll be happy to answer many of your questions. Over to you, I think now, Vasavi.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. I also wanted to highlight Microsoft 6 responsible AI principles. These principles on their own definitely aren't enough. They need to be translated into action. I would recommend going back and watching Navigating AI Risk session from 2 weeks ago by Steve, if you haven't already caught up on that, where Steve will walk through with some examples, such as like, how do you identify bias in your training data and how can you actually use the right tools to go mitigate them. So totally recommend that. And with that, I also wanted to call out some of like the takeaways, right? We spoke about a lot of controls to effectively govern and secure Copilot Studio agents. This is a 1 hour session with a lot of interactivity, so maybe we couldn't cover everything that's out there. So we spoke about security, adoption, monitor, and control, the controls that you have for your agent knowledge, actions, policies. We spoke about like your security score and visibility into your security posture. We spoke about routing, groups, rules, and how you can enforce your management lifecycle best practices. And also think about using reusable components, how you can reuse custom prompts or agent templates, Power effects formulas. That way you're able to standardize assets within your organization. You can capture your intentions, interactions with auditing, monitoring, and from a monitor and controls perspective, think about enforcing environment governance strategies within your organization. Use the PPAC Power Platform Admin Center to gain visibility of your agent usage, and overall, go with proactive governance where you look at your security score, review the recommendations, and actually go govern, manage, and secure all your low-code assets. Thank you, everyone, for taking time. Over to you, Ashley. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for your engagement. And I also want to say thank you to our speakers. They delivered a lot of great content. It was awesome. So, yeah, thank you guys. It was a great session.